All right, Andrew, let's talk about your other favorite team in the SEC, Ole Miss against Florida. So the Gators are going to take on Ole Miss on Wednesday. Both teams coming off the loss here. First loss of the season for Ole Miss. This game is in Oxford, though. So what are y'all's thoughts on this one?
I can go ahead and get us started on this one, give Andrew a water
Yeah,
break.
go.
Yeah, so I mean, I was extremely impressed with Florida against Kentucky. I know they had a chance to get a win, but they played them extremely tight. Unfortunately, Maddie, you made a really great point. And you called the Florida game right last week with that Florida Kentucky matchup, and Florida did not particularly shoot great from the free throw line down the stretch. It cost them a little bit there in the game. For Ole Miss, this is a significant chance to bounce back. I think it was kind of a burn the tape game against Tennessee. I'm not saying necessarily that we learned something from Ole Miss in their blowout against, when Tennessee blew them out. I don't think that's indicative of this team. I'm still kind of I expect Ole Miss to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. I think they're comparable against Florida. So I think this is going to be an absolutely great matchup. Where I'm looking for in this game is rebounding. Which team makes the biggest impact on the glass? To me, that's going to be the most important thing. Ole Miss, not particularly the best team on the glass this season. Still a negative rebound differential on the season. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I do need to go ahead and say that I'm still transitioning out of football season, so I'm still getting my
Oh, you're
vibes on
good. Yeah.
right on a lot of these basketball teams. Um, so admittendly, I've not watched a ton. I watched some of them both yesterday. Ole Miss, obviously, the loss to Tennessee is what it is, but that's the Vols. And I will say, while I may have the feelings about them that I do, that arena, when their fan base gets behind it, is pretty tough place to play. And I do think, in a sense, and just making picks off of vibes here, Florida losing in the way they did at home to Kentucky, where I think they felt like they could have had that one and letting
It was
that
that
slip
close.
away, compared to Tennessee just taking it to the Rebels. I think Ole Miss can probably bounce back from that a little bit easier. I mean, it will be interesting to see this after a defeated start. How do you handle that type of loss? But I kind of lean Ole Miss here.
All right, go. So this game is a quad one chance for the Gators, quad two game for Ole Miss. Kim Palm has this game at 80 to 78, 57% going towards the Gators. So how are you guys picking this one and why?
I am going Ole Miss in a bounce back game. I think home court is important. We've seen them more than capable of winning quad two matchups at home this season, and I think there's probably a little bit of pride on the line after at least what that might be what Chris Beard ends up challenging this Ole Miss team with to get the job done a little bit there in the pavilion. So I'm gonna rock Ole Miss for a bounce back game. Still I think I've got a pick to right so far this season. So, but I think this is the one that they get the job done and get the first SEC win of the season.
Yeah, I jumped the gun again a second ago. Went ahead and gave my pick, but I do think Ole Miss probably gets this game at home.
Andrew, you weren't the first, you weren't the last who's going to jump the pick. Trust me, we've got a weird way of asking questions, and we're trying to figure that formula out. So
So I'm gonna break up the unanimous picks and I'm gonna go with the Gators. I think if they came off of the last game, the way that they played, barring their free throw shooting at the end, which everybody knows that listens to the show drives me absolutely nuts. I don't think it'll come down to it. I think if the Gators play the way they did against Kentucky, while it is going to be an away game, I think they're going to have the edge on Ole Miss.